I'll admit right away, as I sat and reflected on that Monday morning a year ago, I wasn't in the best of moods. My wife Sheila used to be as interested in sex as I was. When we both retired at 60 the previous year, she from teaching, I from the British Transport Police. Okay, maybe we weren't doing it like rabbits every day, but they did it often, at first, sometimes twice a day. By that Monday, a year later, I could barely remember the last time it happened. My wife says the lack of hobbies has made me bored. Boredom led to depression, and depression led to lethargy. In the end, I was too tired for intimacy. I had a different theory. I was depressed because I wasn't having sex, but I suspected she was having it. That was my riddle. If she doesn't have sex, why doesn't she yearn like me? If she has sex, how and when the hell does she do it? Take that Monday, for example. She was in town and met Sally, an old school friend, to chat over coffee. But was this really so? Yes, that's how it happened. I followed her and watched as they met and went to their favorite cafe together. Everything was the same as the previous 3 weeks. And when she returned an hour or so later, she'd stop by to pick up some groceries on the way home, and every receipt had the correct date, time, and price code on it. I checked. I was a cop. This is what we do. On Thursday evening, she goes to pottery class, and I go to the pub. During those 3 weeks, I went to the pub next to the community center and watched her come and go exactly on schedule. I even looked out the damn window and saw her making a potty. There it is, ready and glazed, on the damn table in front of me, standing there, mocking me. There is no doubt that she really did it, as she says. There are no other plausible possibilities for her to meet, have sex, shower, and return without my knowledge. So why is it that all my instincts tell me she's getting hers elsewhere? The penny dropped. That is, everything fell into place. The following Wednesday. Well, I say penny, but from the sound that rang through my head, it sounded more like an anvil. The first clues I got were towels. In our house, Wednesday is laundry day. This Wednesday, as I stretched sleepily in bed, Sheila came out of the bathroom with an armful of blue towels. "Now I'll put them in the wash," she told me, "and you please take the purple towels out of the closet and put them in both bathrooms." The system was simple. She changes her towels once a week and alternating blue and purple sets, makes sure they are all changed regularly. "I'll do it," I agreed and did what she asked me to do while she went downstairs to the utility room. After breakfast, as I was putting a cup and plate in the sink, she yelled at me to check that the washing machine had completed its cycle. I opened the door and looked inside. No, through the glass hatch, you could see that the towels were still spinning in a blur of blue and white. I began to help her dismantle our bed for the next load, thinking about the same question that had been bothering me for several weeks. If she cheats, how? As I worked, I realized that there was some thought lurking in the depths of my mind, trying to be heard, but not getting through. We took a coffee break around 11, and sitting on a lounge chair at the back of the house, I watched the first load of laundry, towels, being hung on the line. Here they are, 4 blue bath towels, 4 blue hand towels, and at the very end, almost to the side of the house, a white bath towel. The voice in the back of my mind was now jumping up and down, waving its arms and shouting obscenities in an attempt to finally get attention. Anvil. Why was there a white towel in the wash? It wasn't in the laundry basket in the bathroom. I would have noticed. It has not been used in any of the bathrooms and is not necessary. In fact, we keep 2 old white bath towels just so we can use them outside in the summer when the grandkids are playing in the inflatable pool. It was March, and these white towels should have been put away months ago. Is it possible that she's cheating on me with someone in our own home, and it was easier to hide the evidence by doing it on the damn towels than leaving visible marks on the bed linen? This couldn't be in our bed. I may be sleeping soundly lately, but I think even I would have noticed her having sex with someone next to me, so... Then another anvil fell. God, it's so damn obvious. I'm not sluggish because I'm depressed. This bitch is mixing something up with me. You look thoughtful, dear. Her voice burst into my thoughts. What? Oh, yeah. I've been solving this puzzle in my head for a while, which was really frustrating, but now it seems like everything is starting to make sense. That's good, dear. You have to keep your mind active, she noted absently, as if she didn't care, and returned to her book, finishing her coffee. Oh, my mind is fully active. But I kept this thought to myself. So here is my reconstruction of the crime. The suspect, she, gives the victim, me, rohypnol, and then invites her lover, an unknown subject, into the house, and sex occurs somewhere. Rohypnol. It's so obvious now. 3 months ago, we switched to a new routine, where at about 8:30 she brings me a small whiskey at night. Then at 10, we take our pills, a mild sedative to help her sleep, a statin for my cholesterol, and a multivitamin for both of us. She says she read that taking medications at the last minute makes them easier to remember and more effective. I made a mental note to take a closer look at my pills when the opportunity presented itself. But if I'm right, then I know how, approximately where. But who? Who could she call to sneak into the house at such a time? Hell no. It can't be that annoying, fat little idiot who lives next door, can it? Well, since the cast of characters seems to be growing, perhaps it's time for more details. My name is Mark Smith. I used to be Inspector Smith until I retired 2 years ago, at 60. I would have become a chief inspector if not for one episode early in my career when a weasel laughed when I told him he was under arrest for breaking his girlfriend's wrist. Unfortunately, he fell down the stairs, twice. Nothing had been proven, but it had rather damaged my career prospects, so promotion from the district police to detective inspector with the British Transport Police was the ideal way to spend the last 5 years of service. It helped my pension, too. I tried to keep myself in shape, but there was this lethargy. However, if my suspicions are correct, it will soon pass. I'm 5 feet 11 inches tall, I look good, and I really don't like being deceived. Sheila, my wife, is about 5'8", graceful and slender, with slender rather than full breasts. Long dark hair and green eyes complete the attractive picture. Our neighbors to our right are an elderly couple we rarely see, and to our left are Julie and the jerk. Apparently his parents named him Justin, probably so he could fit in with the other damn useless parasites at his hedge fund. I thought of him as a jerk, even though my wife insisted that he was actually a wonderful person once you got to know him. Perhaps she got to know him much better than I thought. Julie, on the other hand, was a gem. We only knew her first husband for a couple of years before cancer took him. She did a great job raising their twins on her own until they both left for university. After that, I think empty nest syndrome hit her hard, and within 2 years, a jerk came into her life, into her bed, and then into her home. He has been living there with her for 5 years. They have been married for 3 years. At the time, I guessed that Julie was probably in her mid-50s. She is short, slender, pleasant to look at, and easy to talk to. I could listen to her hoarse voice for hours. If she could sing, she would be a blues legend. Justin was approximately 5 feet 10 inches tall, and to keep fit, he drove his Audi to the gym. What a poser. He puts on a facade of good-natured charm, but if you listen to him carefully, he's a sarcastic, arrogant little bastard. He considers himself so much smarter than everyone else that we don't notice it. But I noticed, and he figured out smarter things than his. I guess on reflection, I don't really like him. To be honest, I don't think he likes me either. So I have a plausible theory about who, how, and where, but no evidence. It's easy to check the situation with the pill. I haven't died yet, so I'll live as usual, but on my own terms. On Thursday evening, my wife left home at 6:30 as usual for her pottery class from 7 to 9. She returns around 9:30. As soon as she left, I grabbed a pair of nitrile gloves from a box in the garage and searched my house. What was I looking for? Whatever. Something that should have been, or something that shouldn't have been. In everyday life, we notice things that are out of place, but when you conduct an investigation, it is oddities, even ordinary ones, that lead to a solution. First, I checked the pills. The ones she presented to me as vitamins were, as I suspected, sedatives prescribed for her. The leaflet that came with them warned that they should not be taken with alcohol. The night before, I spat them out, and in the morning, I felt like a new person. Over the next few hours, I explored every room, trying not to leave any trace of it. She doesn't need to know I was busy. Ultimately, I decided that there were no obvious signs of sex in any of the spare bedrooms. The sheets are clean and, more importantly, look freshly ironed. I knew these sheets hadn't been washed recently. They didn't use the bedrooms. Unfortunately, there are no signs of sex in our bedroom either. But that's why I was so angry. I found gold in a lounge chair in the back of the house. I found a piece of foil between the seat cushions of the three-seater sofa. This is part of the wrapper of a ribbed and ribbed condom that diversifies sex. Not one I've ever used. Now I know where. They must be having sex on the couch, using a towel to catch all the drops. Supposedly she throws the towel in the wash and then returns to my bed. Crap. My marriage is over. Non-negotiable. I could divorce the cow without requiring any proof of her infidelity. But that is somehow unsatisfactory. Some trash gets the sex I'm denied. Retribution is required. I've never considered myself petty. I can rise above most petty insults, but disrespect of this magnitude, no. This requires an answer, and I wanted to cause fucking Armageddon. Over the next few days, as I sat in silence and planned my campaign, I noticed how uninterested my wife was in my mood, as was, now that I thought about it, myself. I didn't care about her either, but I'm the only one of us who knows that we're getting a divorce. So every night I smiled, took the pills, and every night I spit them out as soon as she turned her back. It was midnight on a Saturday night, or Sunday morning if you will, when I was woken up by her phone vibrating. I lay there silently, feeling her movement, and then get out of bed. She walked through our room to the door and slipped out. I heard her open and close the door of the linen closet on the landing, and then silence. Despite all my bravado, I felt bad. I knew I could go downstairs to see if she was cheating, but I didn't really want to see or hear it happen. I could rush in and interrupt them, confront them. It would have been awkward for them, but I wanted much worse than damn awkwardness. I could storm in and beat the little bastard to a pulp, but then the two of them would play the victim, and I'd end up in jail. Remember, I was a cop, so if I want truly powerful revenge, I need them to think they're still in charge. That means letting this little asshole have his fun with my wife until I'm ready. No, damn it, it will not happen. I have a spare home alarm remote taped to the underside of my bedside table. Going downstairs to let the little idiot in, Sheila had to turn off the system. I gave them a couple of minutes to get comfortable. I know, I'm a romantic at heart. And then I pressed the panic button. Well, I just pressed the damn button, and the chaos it caused in the house shook me to the core. This definitely ruined his amorous ambitions for the evening, as I watched him run out the back of our house to safety. The alarm went off. Sheila must have rushed to the main panel and canceled the alarm. I knew she didn't know how the alarm worked beyond arming and disarming. I tried to explain to her when we were installing the system, but she fell into a stupor and I gave up. I was sure she would think she had done something wrong, and this raised alarm bells. I heard her open and close the linen closet door before she returned to our room. I couldn't resist trying to push her buttons. "Did you just come in?" I asked, pretending to say what I would say if I were covered in Rohypnol. "Where have you been? It's already late." "I had to go downstairs to turn off the alarm," she growled at me. "What turned it on?" I asked innocently. "It doesn't work if there's no one down there." "I'll go and have a look." "No!" she shouted. "You can't go downstairs in your—" She was going to say, condition. She knew that if I tried to go downstairs, I would end up in an ambulance at best, and in a hearse at worst. This could open a whole can of worms, and she was smart enough to realize it. I already went downstairs, turned on the alarm, but there was no one there. "I checked all the doors and windows, so go to bed," she told me. I did so, and slept like a baby. For the rest of the weekend, Sheila managed to keep her legs together, and I spent an agonizing 10 minutes every time she showered reading text messages on her phone. I helped set up the lock screen so that even though my fingerprint didn't work, I knew her backup passcode. They were so damn arrogant that they set up midnight dates via text. This told me two things. They slipped on Rohypnol and Julie, and they were completely screwed. By Sunday evening, they had recovered from the psychological trauma of Saturday night and agreed to meet at 11:30 on Tuesday evening. This suited me to the core. I had a plan that didn't require much preparation, as long as I could talk to Julie first. On Monday, Sheila went to meet Sally as usual, and Justin's car disappeared from a nearby driveway. I was just praying that Julie would work from home like she usually does, and so it turned out. "Hello, Mark," she said with a sweet smile, opening the door. Her smile faded when she saw the expression on my face. "Something happened? You look so serious." "Julie, I'm sorry, but we need to talk and we don't have much time." "What's happened?" she asked. "Now, I'll tell you briefly, but could we meet by chance near the library at 2:30 and chat longer?" "Okay," she agreed, "but tell me the short version anyway." That's exactly what I did. Told her about the lethargy, the new regimen of whiskey and pills, the change in sedatives, and sex. "Creature," she hissed. "I knew he was having fun with someone, but I couldn't figure out how. Would you be surprised to know that Justin brings me some sherry every night to calm my nerves and a vitamin tablet to boost my immune system? No wonder my head is always in a fog." "How angry are you?" I asked. "Because I want to bury this couple, but I will be sent to prison if I cause them as much pain as they deserve." "I agree," she replied. "It's clear that I can kick out the little asshole, but I want to hurt him too. Strongly." "I have an idea," I said. "And if we do everything right, we will become victims, and they will get what they deserve." "I'm in," she announced. "I haven't told you how yet." "Doesn't matter. While the rain of suffering is pouring down on them, I am in business. This is my first time alone with this woman, and I already like her. Beautiful, smart, and vindictive. What else is there not to like?" I told her my plan. It was simple, didn't require any contrived situations, hardly any lies, and the police would do all the hard work for us. "Okay," she said. "Give me the rest of the morning to think it over, and I'll see you by chance this afternoon. Oh, by the way," I added, getting ready to leave, "if the police ask you, the last time we spoke, the conversation was about a spare cable for the printer. After lunch, I'll pick him up in town." She grinned. We met after lunch, and I showed her the cable I was able to buy. The old one was apparently accidentally thrown away. In fact, there was practically nothing to clarify. My plan was simple and easy to implement. Our two biggest problems are not doing or saying anything smart to our cheating spouses so they don't think we've figured them out, and agreeing to accept our rotten blows on Monday and Tuesday nights, albeit on our terms. How good the little ones are cuckolds who we were. On Tuesday, I decided to clean out my garage. I grew increasingly angry as I saw signs that Sheila was preparing for another date at my house, so I tried to keep my distance and maintain my composure. She vacuumed and tidied up the sunroom, and I noticed that a white towel was in the linen closet, ready to go on the chaise longue for them to lounge on. I no longer contacted Julie because it was important that everything we did was as usual. That evening, at 10 o'clock, Sheila brought me a large glass of whiskey and my pills. She watched me swallow them, and then went back to the kitchen to get hers. I spat out the pills and hid the sedative, then swallowed my statin along with a sip of whiskey. My toxicology test had to be consistent. I was supposed to be tired by 10:30, so I whined a little about not being able to keep my eyes open until she told me to just go to bed. I did so, but tried not to doze off, concentrating on why she seemed to think it was okay to act this way towards me after almost 40 years and 2 children. Not just cheating, but under my own roof after she drugged me sedatives. This is heartless. About 15 minutes later, I heard her getting into bed, and I pretended to be dead. After checking on me, she went into the bathroom and I heard the shower running. Then she brushed her teeth. When I heard her flush the toilet, I took the sedative I had saved up earlier and played dead a little more. At 11:30, her phone buzzed on the bedside table. I tried to snort slightly, as if I had been disturbed, and then froze again and slowed my breathing. I heard her slip out of bed, grab a towel from the closet, and head downstairs. Just like before, she left her phone by the bed. Well, who was she going to call? 5 minutes later, her phone buzzed again. Another text message. Despite the situation, I couldn't help but smile. It was a text from Julie asking why Justin was knocking on the door of our screened-in sunroom. She asked if everything was okay with us. I didn't take Sheila's phone number. I'm stupefied and confused. Remember? Then my phone rang. Once again, it's Julie. I again did not answer, but this was a signal that I was not sleeping. I went downstairs, trying not to alert them, and stopped in the kitchen near the partially open door. I heard them having sex and felt such disgust and hatred. What did I do that made her think I deserved this? If she doesn't love me, she can just leave me. But why exactly? And even with this pompous idiot? There was a dim table lamp in the sunroom, and between that and the light from the oven's LED display, I could see well enough to grab the rolling pin from the countertop where I'd left it. If the police found it too convenient, I would point out that I was in the kitchen, surrounded by a dozen or more alternative potential weapons. So I had to stand and listen until she did me one last favor as my wife. She screamed, "No, don't stop! Please don't stop!" It was the best line I could have hoped for. I burst into the room screaming, "Get away from my wife, you bastard!" That's what I meant. And, "Don't worry, my love, I will save you." What I didn't do. The idiot jerked mid-motion, a frightened meerkat, and I gave him a damn good whack to the side of the head with a rolling pin. However, the clumsy little bugger moved, and given that I was already partially drugged from illegal substances, the next blow was a bigger blow than I had intended. He fell as if hit with a pole, still immersed in my unfaithful wife. I caught sight of Julie's face through the window as I was performing my last part of the play. "Are you okay, love?" I muttered as she started screaming. "Don't worry, he can't hurt you anymore." Then I carefully collapsed on top of them, pinning her under my lover's body, and pretended to lose consciousness. Eventually, the illicit substances worked as expected, and the pretense became reality. While my scene was playing out, Julie was telling the next one. Around 10 o'clock, as had become their habit, Justin brought her a large glass of sherry and a vitamin tablet for the immune system. She accepted them both. Soon after, however, she was in the bathroom, had a coughing fit, and vomited into the sink. She didn't say anything to her husband as he was watching TV and just called down to say she was going to bed early. Soon after, he joined her in bed, but after a while he got up and disappeared. Then she heard a noise like a door closing, and when he did not return, she called to him, but he did not answer. Still sleepy and confused, she looked out of the bedroom window and saw him in the garden by the patio door overlooking our sunroom. She texted Sheila's number to see if we were okay, and then called me when Sheila didn't answer. When I also ignored my phone, she decided to find out what was going on herself. When she followed Justin into our garden, she was stunned to watch through the sunroom windows as her husband had sex with my wife on the sofa. She was shocked but so outraged by his betrayal that she filmed them until I burst into the room, possibly drunk, and apparently under the impression that my wife was being raped by a stranger, hit Justin on the head and then fell. At that moment, she stopped filming, called the emergency services, and told the operator that the police and 2 ambulances should come to our address. I told her to tell the truth whenever possible and not try to direct the police in their investigation. Let these bastards earn a living, and if they do their job properly, justice will prevail. Almost everything in her story was true. The only deception was that the kook and vomiting were caused by herself. I was awakened by a paramedic trying to get my attention. I was woozy and very tired, but I knew I had to do something. But what the hell exactly? This was it. "My wife," I muttered. "Is she all right? Did he hurt her?" "She's fine," he assured me. "She's talking to the police now." I fell back into unconsciousness. The next time I woke up, I was in the hospital, and the doctor and uniformed policemen were staring at me. I have no idea what time it was. The doctor spoke first. The attending paramedic was concerned about your reactions to stimuli. It turns out that you may have been under the influence of illegal substances and/or alcohol. I would like to take your blood for a test if you agree. I nodded in agreement and said vaguely, "Do what you need to do, Doc. I have nothing to hide." He took the sample, and I fell back on the bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up around 9. He slowly stood up and noticed another uniformed policeman sitting next to the door. He looked to be about 20. "Are you okay, sir?" he asked politely. "I think so," I answered. "But I don't even know why I'm here. I'll leave the boss to explain himself if you don't mind." This is beyond my strength. Soon after, the nurse came in and, seeing that I was completely awake, offered to bring me tea and toast. God, I love the NHS, the National Health Service. While she was checking my blood pressure and temperature, the policeman came out and I heard him talking quietly into his walkie-talkie. He was still talking when he returned to the room. "Of course, sir. Yes, I'll tell him now." The nurse left, promising to send someone with my late breakfast, and the cop approached the bed. "The boss is on his way here now on another matter. Should be with us in half an hour or so." He looked at me intently. "Are you willing to wait, sir?" he asked. I smiled wryly. "Quite. Because we both know that if I try to leave, you'll have to arrest me. This will make you angry and I'll have to eat breakfast in handcuffs. Let's be civil, okay?" He chuckled at my answer. "It's nice to deal with a professional, sir. This makes everything much easier." Then a thought struck him, and he stuck his head out the door and talked to a nurse passing by. He returned, sat down, and began leafing through a Country Life magazine that had been left on the table near the door. He saw me looking at him. "What?" "Oh, I just said you're about to be arrested, so we'd both appreciate a cup of tea as soon as possible." Sure enough, 10 minutes later, I was eating toast. We were both drinking beer and chatting about England's abysmal performance in the second test in Australia. An hour later, I was in an interview room at the local police station, arrested on suspicion of assault occasioning actual bodily harm. The investigator introduced himself and repeated the warning. He asked if everything was clear to me. I didn't play games. This offense threatened a serious prison sentence if I was accused and convicted. Yes, I understood everything. He asked me to tell him what happened the night before. I told him more or less factual information. My wife brought me something to drink and some pills. I was so tired that I had to go to bed. Something woke me up. My wife was neither in bed nor in the bathroom, and I went downstairs. I heard a noise as if two people were fighting, so I grabbed the first thing that came to hand and rushed to the solarium, only to see a man raping my wife while she was calling for help. I thought I remembered hitting him, but then I couldn't remember anything else until the doctor woke me up. "Is my wife okay?" I asked. "Nobody says, but I seem to remember someone telling me that she was fine." He looked at me with a long, thoughtful look. "She is also arrested. You collapsed onto the other man, pinning her. Apparently, when the paramedics managed to move you both to free her, she tried to attack you with the same rolling pin you were using. I was genuinely offended by this, so my offended look was real." "Why?" "He raped her." "Don't you know who this gentleman was?" he asked. I admitted that I didn't know. It was dark, and he had his back to me. Everything was swimming in my head, too. I don't remember much at all. "It seems," he said softly, "you interfered with your wife and her lover, your neighbor, Mr. Justin Clark." I just stared at him. I knew that feigning surprise or any other melodramatic reaction would cause a shiver, so I simply stared at him, like a man trying to reconcile an obvious truth with the knowledge that this could not be true. "Can we assume that you didn't know?" he asked. I nodded. I was wondering because she seemed so distant lately, but she didn't have the opportunity. Even when we weren't in each other's company, I knew where she was. So I came to the conclusion that it was more likely my depression that turned her off than her infidelity. "So let's be clear," I continued. "I'm under arrest on suspicion of ABH, actual bodily harm, but the man I attacked because I thought he was raping my wife was actually her lover, my married neighbor." "Yes, in short," he agreed. crap. I guess I should ask how he's doing, I suggested. He made a face. He's in a medically induced coma. The blow appears to have caused a small but significant cerebral hemorrhage. At the moment, it is not life-threatening, but everything is quite serious. I sat silently, thinking. I want to ask about your medical history, he said after a few minutes, to let me process the news. We will, of course, check with your doctor. But what medications are you taking? I told him about statins to lower cholesterol and vitamins that my wife recommended. In fact, insisted that I try it. He got up. You are still under arrest, but for now I will not charge you pending further investigations. I know you understand what this means. We both smiled to show we understood what he meant. Then he put on his uniform to take me to the cell. I didn't fuss. I didn't protest. They had enough to do. Evidence needed to be found and processed. I felt warm, safe, and comfortable where I was. Why make a fuss? The investigation went well. Considering the severity of the injury that I inflicted on Justin, they were very attentive to the collection of evidence and the examination. As a result, within a week, it became apparent that Julie and I had been systematically and cynically drugged for at least 3 months, with a prescription-only drug intended to treat my wife's non-existent insomnia. An examination of Julie's bathroom sink trap revealed evidence of vomit containing the same medication used in both homes, in containers clearly labeled as vitamin supplements. The only fingerprints on the containers were those of Justin and Sheila. These two faithful friends gave us both the same dose, with the result that Julie, so petite, began to show the first signs of liver damage. Fortunately, this was discovered before the consequences became irreversible. Julie's video and our phone records matched both of our stories. And when an analysis of my blood sample showed that I was under the influence of strong illegal substances when I hit Justin, the police investigation took a different direction. An examination of the couple's phone records and text messages proved conclusively that they were collaborating to keep Julie and me high on illicit substances while they continued their affair. Justin was bragging about how much he enjoyed having sex with my wife in my house while I slept upstairs. He noticed that I wasn't giving him the respect he deserved, and this was his way of repaying me. When I remembered the content of some of my wife's answers, I rather regretted that I had not hit her with the rolling pin. It got even better. Julie gave the police full access to her home, as did I. None of us had anything to hide. While checking our computers for any signs that Julie and I had actually orchestrated the episode that night, it turned out that the nefarious little cockerel had gotten a little creative with his investors' finances and was plotting for a big score before leaving for pastures new, or rather, to pastures where there is no extradition treaty. They found all sorts of interesting invoices on a laptop hidden in his spare bedroom, including one in my wife's name. She thought they would take our money and run away. He thought the same thing, only she wasn't in the plans, although her money was there, just like mine. I so wanted to be there when the police told her about it. They were eventually both charged with maliciously administering poison with intent to harm, hurt, or annoy another person under Section 24 of the Offenses Against the Person Act 1861. The maximum prison term if convicted is 5 years. They were also charged with conspiracy to defraud. Even though Sheila did not work in finance, her text messages to Justin demonstrated her awareness and active involvement. The maximum prison term is 10 years. Justin was discharged from the hospital straight to the police station. Both were under investigation before the trial. My wife was sentenced to 2 years in prison for abuse of office and 2 years for conspiracy to commit fraud. Both sentences will be served concurrently. He was sentenced to 3 years for malicious use, as Julie's liver was damaged, and 5 years for fraud. It's obvious that Julie did everything she could to help the police track down every penny he had. There was good news for him. The prison service doctors are confident that his speech should return to normal by the time he is released. However, only God knows what he will do for a living when he is released. The police confiscated most of his property under the Proceeds of Crime Act, and even his old school friends were reluctant to give him jobs that involved money. But that's not all. Oh my God, no. Once the police made it clear that we were victims, and I was not charged with ABH on the grounds that I had been drugged by an associate of the man I was accused of attacking, I brought in old buddies from the national press. Julie and I, of course, maintained a dignified silence. We had been terribly betrayed by people we trusted and needed space to think. The advertisement was received with joyful frenzy. Sheila and Justin were vilified at every turn. No one, not a single commentator, not a single talking head could find a single excuse for their behavior. Julie, in particular, was so charming that neither man nor woman could understand how Justin could leave her bed for any other. I'm not very good. Our 2 children were in court throughout the entire process. I couldn't sit with them until I testified and was released. I was on the witness stand for only 20 minutes. Forensic experts gave offensive testimony. My blood tests, Julie's liver damage, vitamin containers, text messages, financial due diligence. Why she allowed Justin to convince her to plead innocent was a mystery to me. In their SMS, they admitted almost everything. Like I said, he thought he was so smart. No. Once they heard the honest truth in court, my daughter cut her mother out of her life forever. She wrote to her in prison, telling her not to call, write, or visit either her or the children. If she tries, they'll get a restraining order because she's a convicted poisoner. My son took it hard. He was especially close to his mother. He asked if I would be offended if he visited her in prison to hear her opinion. If you think so, son, I told him, then you should go. Otherwise, you will never forgive yourself for this. But, I warned him, be prepared to be disappointed. The visit took place a couple of weeks later. He called that evening. You were right, Dad, he said. I am disappointed. But now I will never regret breaking up with her. Obviously, each phrase she uttered shocked him more than the previous one. It was my fault for not appreciating her, for allowing myself to relax, for not achieving a higher position in society. She is not to blame for anything. The idiot seduced her when she was vulnerable. He courted her. It was his idea to drug Julie and me with illegal substances. His idea was to transfer our savings to his offshore account. Then she turned the illusion dial to 11. There will be a lot of explaining to do to convince your father to take me back, she told him. Mother, you poisoned him so you could have fun with the man he despised in his own home while he was upstairs, high on illegal drugs. Take you back? Apparently, the guy was so outraged by her ignorance that he allowed himself an additional explanation. You know that he saw all the SMS humiliating him that you sent to your idiot neighbor? He asked her. Dad's main regret at the moment is that he didn't know you were cheating on him with Justin. Otherwise, he could have beaten your brains out with that damn rolling pin. He risked going to jail thinking he was saving you from a rapist while you laughed at him behind his back with your seedy boyfriend. I was a little ashamed, but I ignored it. They parted on not the best terms. In fact, the conditions were the same as those of his sister. Do not call, do not write, do not visit. She lost her dignity and reputation, as well as her husband, daughter, son, and grandchildren due to a sordid affair with an embezzler. She also lost most of her savings. When I divorced her while she was under investigation, I sold the house and divided our property between us equitably. She had enough money to not qualify for free legal aid, so she had to pay a barrister for her hopeless defense. I then filed a personal injury claim against her for emotional trauma caused by her continued malicious administration, etc. By the time she is released, she will receive her pension and not much more. At the same time, Julie divorced Justin. If he thought he would get half of their house, he would be disappointed. Julie and her first husband placed it in trust for their twins. Julie simply has the right to occupy it as long as she lives. Justin has the right to fuck off and starve in a cardboard box. For several months, Julie and I spent a lot of time in the public eye and tried not to let anyone know that we were nothing more than the unfortunate victims of 2 equally despicable spouses. When the pressure of publicity became too much, I took a 2-week break in a secluded villa in the south of France. Julie went to visit a friend who lived in a secluded villa in the south of France. We realized that we showed a lot of trust in each other, and that means a lot after we were both betrayed. We were friends, then lovers, until eventually I put my share of the house in the bank and moved in with Julie. My kids love her, and their kids have a new grandma. The Julie twins get along well with me, too. Well, I'm not Justin. We are not married, and will probably never get married. But I'm proud to call her my life partner, and I know that if I tire of her, I hope she'll tell me it's over. I know that she won't act behind my back. I know she feels the same about me. I started this story by explaining that I was depressed because I wasn't getting sex. Julie offered to compensate because it was her husband who was getting the sex I was missing. The debt was paid in full that first week in France. This woman is a wildcat. How the idiot could leave her bed for such a simple woman as Sheila remains a mystery to me. We still take our vitamins every night, but now we take the right ones. Julie stopped drinking to help her liver heal, and I stopped too. I want to live as long as possible, waking up next to her. I already said that Julie is beautiful, smart, and vindictive, and I already love her. I was only partly joking then. Now this is the absolute truth. She lost her husband to cancer, raised 2 children alone, and was betrayed by this scoundrel. And yet she can love, and she loves me with all my shortcomings. What a woman. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.